Yeah, I think there's more of something. There's
Okay.
obviously a reason why not only the treaty prevents anyone from going there, but to Antarctica, but there's a no-fly zone over it. There's a no-fly zone over the Arctic area, and on top of that, it's just a weird situation where you have all of these countries, all these nation states, who all have massive weaponry and talk of wars, and have had wars with one another, and confrontations and conflicts, which they like to call it now. And one treaty that protects them from each other, both with wars and violence and everything else in that particular territory. But it also is an agreement that only certain countries can go there, only certain countries can explore there. Individuals can go if they have the money to pay to go to Antarctica, and many people do go, and they go on cruise ships and other touristy type stuff, but you have to get a permit, you have to get an application, you have to have one of their guides, pre-approved guide agencies accompany you.
Mm-hmm.
None of this seems to make any sense to me. This needs to be revisited. This needs to be explained to people all over the world. Most people don't even know that this treaty exists. They don't know why. If you go on Wikipedia, for example, and just look up, if I told you, oh, go Google the Antarctic Treaty, then you would go and you would Google, and then you would read it, and it sounds like a great idea. Oh, now the best place in the world. Let's keep the stupid humans from ruining it with their oil wells and their litter and so on. In theory, when you read it, it sounds awesome, but so does Agenda 21, and
Right.
so do the Georgia Guidestones,
Right.
but I don't want them to implement them. What is the intention of this treaty? How long are they going to keep, renewing it? What are they doing down there? Why are they telling us there's only this limited amount of land, but yet at the same time we're at the mercy of whatever it is they decide to release to us as far as information? Nobody can freely decide for themselves to become an explorer and go off on their own or with a crew, self-funded or not. Now, I understand there is one planned for 2016, an exploration led by some guy, and I just started reading about it, so I can't tell you enough about it yet. But my point is, if you and me decided that we wanted to get in a boat and we wanted to climb the ice wall at some odd place that's not a registered acceptable entry point, and take our equipment and just go zooming out over the ice in any direction we chose, we would be prevented from doing that. We would be stopped militarily, and I don't understand why. As far as I'm concerned, the direction that I hope it will go and the direction that it actually goes are probably two different things. What is the goal that we want to achieve by getting the flat Earth theory to be a mainstream belief everywhere, okay, and deflate the ball, okay, blow the ball up, forget it, the ball is done. And it will be one of those things that we will joke about in the comedy clubs one day. Ha ha ha! Remember when we used to all believe it was ball for like hundreds of years? Ha ha ha! How were we so duped? Okay, and why? Because by then, I hope the question is answered to why they made a ball in the first place and what they hope to gain. I think I know, but I may only know part of it. I may only know half of it. But in my opinion, the goal is there's theories being bounced around out there now, lots of them. Theories like we live in a dome enclosed world where there's you know, a snow globe over the top, and that if you take out over the Antarctic at some point, you're going to run into this glass wall or energy wall or whatever, a stopping barrier of some kind that that somehow was created, because a natural world doesn't come in a snow globe. It just, they don't form that way naturally. So right there is like, that has to make you stop and question, okay, now a whole bunch of other stuff just fell apart. A whole nother house of cards just fell down. I mean, it's like a Rube Goldberg experiment, okay? When I tip over this domino and I find this wall, for example, okay, now evolution's gone, or the story of evolution that we've heard. Now, I'm sure there's probably been some micro evolution or something that has occurred since creation, but now we live in a created environment. So here comes God or gods back. Now we have to define, is it a God? Is it one God? Is it a multiple bunch of gods? Are these gods actually aliens? You know, did they sit up on Mount Olympus and that was all true, and we just, you know, thought those were myths? I mean, the whole script has to go through a rewrite. Well, here's what's interesting about what's on the other side. If in fact the azimuthal equidistant flat Earth map, as I've seen displayed, used, is even remotely close to what we're dealing with, okay? And I don't expect that there's a perfect circle of ice on the outside like, you know, some people have drawn or painted or whatever. I mean, I think it's probably because once you disassociate your mind from the ball, you can't go back. You can't see it anymore. Okay. So in your mind's eye, what you see is the azimuthal equidistant flat Earth map. Otherwise the map that, you know, the UN uses and the US Geological Survey uses, and the old one that you see often. I do believe that that magnetic north is in the center of that map, okay? And then I believe if you stand at the center of the map and you look away from center, you're going south. No matter if you go from east, south, west, south, north, south, 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 it's all south away from north. Okay, so there really is no east or west unless you get down on the map somewhere and then turn right or left and keep walking in the circle. Okay, so so I don't know, and nobody else does either, except for those who may have in the last 50 years been on multiple excursions in all of these directions, and that's why we can't go there, because it is not in our best interest to go there. Or they can come up with some cockamamie story, or it could be a true story, I have no idea, that in fact there's other ponds out there with creatures that are detrimental to us, you know, could kill us, hurt us, poison us, eat our heads off. I have no idea. So the militarization thing kind of leads me in one of those two directions, that they're either thinking they're protecting us from something, or they're protecting something from us. They want to be able to go there, and they don't want us to go there because it could be Eden or paradise, or resources abound, or something, and they're saving it for the so-called elite. There is no such thing as a glass dome, and it is not a visible physical barrier. It could very well be a barrier, like it's just a different density that we cannot penetrate with our corporeal bodies. It could be like a Van Allen belt, where it's some kind of a radiation or an electromagnetic field that would shock us and kill us.
Right.
We're all electric. You know, that the possibilities are about as infinite if you have an imagination. I've done my prehistoric research, for example, and I have read Genesis of the Bible, and I have, wrapped my mind around the Bible version of the creation story. And I very much believe that it is a true story, pretty much exactly as written and understood. Most people try to make a really big deal about it, but if you're a creator and you can go and imagine creating animals and plants and an ecosystem and a biologically perfect symbiotic relationship between all kinds of creatures and air and water and all that. If you can think it, you can create it. I mean, I'm an artist. I make my living being an artist, so I'm a creator, and I have to use my imagination all the time, not only to create something that didn't exist before I put my hand to it, but also because I have to take my imagination and I have to solve problems to actually be able to create what I dream up in my head. Because just because you can dream it up in your head doesn't mean you can actually make a 3D thing out of it. When you read the creation story and you read Genesis, for example, and you understand that, okay, God made the heavens, God made the earth, God made the waters, God made the land. He spoke this into existence. If you think about speaking something into existence, then you can think about, well, actually sound is made of light. The smallest particles of light are sound. So, there's some connection to every bit of this stuff. Well, then man was kicked out of Eden. Right. So we can never go back. So maybe that's over there. Think about these words, and then you can understand that why would I not be curious? Why would I not think of all of that and have been told all my life, oh, well, those are just silly Bible stories and that's not real? Well, maybe it is. How do I know it isn't? Now that I am curious, and now that I'm re-asking a lot of questions that I never asked before, and now that I'm smart enough and awake enough to start investigating and exploring, when you're a child, one of the first things you do when you get out of the crib and you learn to crawl is you start exploring. You start exploring your environment. You crawl down the hall, you crawl in the kitchen, you open the cabinets, you stick your finger in the light socket, you learn, you create, you explore, okay? And all along the way, you have this adult person who's going, you can't go over there, and oh, that's a bad place, and no, it's for your own good, don't touch that, okay? Well, I feel like that's what they're doing to me now. I feel like they're saying, no, for your own good, you don't get to go there. Well, then how come you get to go there? And how come these guys get to go there? Are they somehow better than me? I mean, who voted them to get to go there, people? Everybody is not going to be trapped into the if, then, or the and, or the A, B, or pick one. I like choices, okay? And I don't. One of the things that I've been, kind of pretty adamant about since I got involved in the Flat Earth community and in the movement itself is that, wait up. Let's not box us into having to choose what's behind door number 1, 2, or 3, because we don't have enough information to be able to assess what are the most obvious choices yet. Okay, because they all have problems as far as I'm concerned. The infinite plane has problems. The dome has problems. And I don't think we live in the Truman Show. And there's another belief by one of the so-called leaders of the movement that says that, we are a manifestation of a dream of God, that, God dreamed us up and then manifested us and we're not actually real. We're like holograms. We're a dreamscape. If that's what you want to believe, you go right ahead. But you can't sell me that. You can't sell me any of these theories because I don't have enough information, and I don't even have enough information to use Occam's razor. Okay, and so don't box me in to a belief system, because here's what happens when you do that. If you say, well, okay, here's this and here's that and here's these options, okay, and then we all, like, let's say we vote, okay, oh, the one's most logical wins, okay, and then the treaty's still there and we still can't go to Antarctica, and we're still in the same place we always were, and we didn't advance anywhere. We still can't explore. So as far as I'm concerned, the goal has to be undefined as far as accepting any of these models, ideas, right? Yeah, and any of these models, theories, because that's all they are, just like gravity. and until we can assess what we actually live on, until we can go as far as we can go. I mean, if we send people off on a journey across the ice, okay, now I don't know about you, but I've seen photographs being like leaked out lately of so-called Antarctica, of terrain I've never seen before. But I saw pictures with grass. Now, and I saw a picture of what looked like, they tried to sell it as a mummified sea lion laying on the ground. Okay, now, not only is it so-called mummified, if that thing's been laying there for like a long time, and they said 6,000 years approximately, this mummified sea lion's been laying there, okay? There's no debris blown up against it. It's not covered with any soil, or I guess not a single wind has blown any sand on top of it. The fur is still intact. You know, it would be, come on. So that's just one example of the different things that I'm seeing, you know, because I am the epitome of a critical thinker. Not only do I question everything, but it's like, show me, make me, prove it. I was that kid in the playground. It's like, oh, well, you know, my daddy was an astronaut. Prove it. Bring me, you know, or like Oz, bring me the witch's broom. Until you can do that, I don't believe you. So that's how I'm approaching all of the things now that I've been told. I mean, I just read some stuff today that just blew the rest of part of my mind away. Okay, that somehow, somewhere, somebody made a deal to add 1,000 years of history to our timeline, and that we actually only live in 1015 and not 2015. When stuff like that goes down and you start to question, I'm sorry, don't tell me that that Antarctica's a little patch of ice on the bottom of a globe. It's not. It's just not. Well, it obviously ends the concept of the globalism. It obviously ends the concept of the New World Order. It brings down the United Nations and the nation states, as far as I'm concerned, because they've all been in cahoots. I don't know if there's a place called cahoots, but if there is, they all been hanging out there because they've agreed that. Now, not everybody, you know, I believe that there's a whole lot of people involved in this conspiracy who are not in collusion, so to speak, because they don't know any better. They don't know any better than any of the rest of us did before we started questioning this, right? So my goal, if there is such a thing, is not only just to go, okay, whoop-de-doo, we all agree it's flat, okay? Yeah. I think that it changes the dynamic, or it should change the dynamic of how we govern ourselves, of how we think about our culture, how we think about our existence, where we came from, what we live on, what our purpose is as human beings, or no purpose at all. You know, we have a new definition to discover, okay? And we also have a new environment to discover. Mm-hmm. And some people couldn't care less about that. They won't, it's like, really, who cares? I have a job, I have a family, I have a house. And then others of us are like, okay, cool, fine. You just, you get to go ahead and just keep doing that. At the end of the day, if you walk across Antarctica and come out another side and you're still on the same plane, then that's part of the mystery solved, isn't it? I believe that there's probably parts of the ice that just, again, how can I assess? If there's a barrier, I want to see it. I want to know it. I maybe don't want to go there myself because I really hate cold. But at the same time, you know, if there's a group of people who goes there and they run into the wall and they go, see, there it is. And then you go, if they're so afraid of that, then go look up Operation High Jump. You know, they always got those really cool operation names. What was the operation where they set off nuclear weapons in the upper atmosphere trying to, what were they trying to do? Were they trying to blow a hole in it? I mean, what if they actually did do that? What if they blew a hole in it and it's like we all got, like in an airplane when you're at 30,000 feet, somebody opens the door or whatever, and right, everybody gets sucked out because the vacuum's out there? Or the Bible says that there's water up there. There's water above the firmament and there's water below the earth, below the land. Okay, so I just soon know better what it is, because all this time I thought I knew. I actually thought I knew. I thought, you know, I was told. I never really bought into the whole story, but I was told that I live on a spinning ball going 1,000 miles an hour, spinning through space, following a sun that's also traveling millions of miles an hour through space, through a galaxy that's also flying millions of miles an hour through space. And so, you know, this whole time I've been flying through space. And now all of a sudden, nothing in my mind has the capacity to truly understand the term infinite. I don't understand what infinite means. So infinite plane, it's really hard for me to wrap my mind around. One of the things that a lot of people have a hard time wrapping their mind around, as far as like for the Bible stories, for example, again, Noah gathered up his family and a whole bunch of animals and put them on an ark, and the earth was flooded, and rained for 40 days and 40 nights. We don't know how long it took for all the water to recede again and for them to land back on land. And then some thousands of years go by, and all of a sudden, 6 or 8 people who are on a boat that are a family and people who live in the same area or community turn out to be Chinese people, black people, white people, Indian people. You get my drift. Where in this short period of time were we able to be so diverse in our outward appearance? And not only outward appearance, but we actually have slightly different bone structures. We have slightly different DNA, makeup. Yeah. Okay. So when I started thinking about the infinite plane, or that there's more ponds, that kind of went click, click, click to the old Bible stories of, dang, that sort of figures that out a little bit, doesn't it? Maybe the people over in that pond look like you, and the people over in that pond look like me. Back in the day, we were able to traverse from pond to pond. If you want to talk about infinite, let's take infinite to a different perspective, okay? Maybe our pond is not infinite. Maybe our pond is enclosed, but maybe there's an infinite number of them. And maybe at some point they were a very large bubble and then they became smaller bubbles. Okay. And maybe there's a whole bunch of smaller bubbles with a great big bubble over the top of it. Right. I don't know, because, the only way that I can come up with any kind of a hypothesis is with enough data to create one. I don't have enough information, and so the fact that I don't bugs the crap out of me.
Right.
That's the really cool thing about it. Oh no, you don't, because here's the deal. The situation that we find ourselves in now is based on, is commonly known as scarcity.
Mm-hmm.
Scarcity operates on what is called supply and demand. If you only have so much of something, okay, if you only have so much water in the bottle in the refrigerator and there's no more water ever anywhere, okay, you're going to protect that water with your life. You're going to be very careful with it, okay? You're also going to think of it as it's dear to you, it's necessary. So what we find ourselves in right now is what is called a system based on scarcity, okay? Nobody has ever in the history of man assessed all that I know of, assessed all of the resources that are available here on the planet, or plain T. No, there's no, we have these massive master computers, these supercomputers, okay, that we haven't even explored the depths of our oceans. We haven't explored all there is of Antarctica, according to what we know. You know, there's lots of places on Earth yet that we have not been, okay? But not only that, we don't know what's underneath of us. You know, we don't know what all resources we have. Now, one thing, for example, is we've been told all of our lives that oil is such a valuable resource and it is our main source of energy, and we will go to any length there is to get oil out of the ground, okay? And then as time went by, we started learning, well, but what about all these other sources of energy? What about sun and water and wind and so on, okay? No. They're not as easy to get as oil. And besides that, we have already invested so much money in the way that we get our oil that to start all over would be way too expensive. Well, but not if we start now. Oh, no. And so there's always these reasons for keeping scarcity going, okay? If there's more, now, for example, Admiral Byrd took several excursions into Antarctica years ago in the 40s and 50s, and there's interviews with him on YouTube, old TV interviews, where he explained that there's this amazing amount of land, and that there's an amazing amount of resources, more resources than we have now, okay? So then all of a sudden, no, now we have to have a treaty, and now you can't go there. And now, well, what happened to all those resources? Well, we're protecting them. Oh, so it's the scarcity game again, okay? So now here we are. We're all playing Monopoly. We're all sitting there playing the Monopoly game, okay? And the Monopoly game works like this. Everybody starts out with the same amount of money. And everybody has a dice or a little toy to play around the thing, and you take your chances and you throw the dice. And if you're a good thrower, you do good. And if not, and if you're smart, you start buying up property. And pretty soon somebody smarter than you are, and they land luckily on that piece of property, and they buy that up, and you can't get past that corner, dang it, for your life without having to land on that piece of property. And so every time they're shelling out the money, and the winner of the game has all the money. That's how the game ends. The winner of the game has all the money, okay? And so you're like, I hate this game, because you can never play it well, because you aren't into the money thing. Like, I have never been rich in my life, and I'm probably never going to be, because I don't really care about money. Here's why they want to sell you the dome.
Right.
It sounds really cool. It sounds all scientific and cool and everything. Right. And we got a dome, and we got this like punk city steampunk thing underneath of it running everything. And there's like engines pumping fresh air out, and there's, something making the tides go this way. And on this whole like clockworks thing. And, I don't even think that sounds good. I don't even know why you're all excited about that. Why would that even be cool? Okay.
Right.
Because you know what happens? It's just like the Monopoly game. There's always a winner. There's always somebody who likes to be the greedy bastard that wants to win the game. Okay. And so money begets money. So once you have some money, once you have more money than the people sitting next to you, then you can start to buy up people, buy up resources, control politics, control. And that's where we are today. Wasn't that a fun game?
Right.
Not exactly. If there is a finite ending to the Orion's belt ball thing on the neck, okay, if that's what we're in, then now what changes? Everything changes still. Then it's like, what do I have a reason to blow up everybody for? Shouldn't we now just sit back and count up all of our resources and divvy them up equally between everybody, and make sure that everybody gets fed and housed and clothed and happy and things are free and you don't have to buy, and you know, some utopian thing? It may work, it may never work. Who knows? But we've never gotten to try it. You always make it sound like, oh, that'll never work. You'll be bored to death. Utopia doesn't work. Are you kidding me? If I don't have to get up and drive in a freaking car 10 miles to work and screaming and yelling and gas and fumes and clothes and babysitters, if I don't have to do all of that, if at the end of the day I can be who I am and what I'm good at and what my highest and best use is, don't tell me until we get to try. We've never gotten to try utopia. Never gotten to try no wars that I can remember in my whole lifetime. I grew up hiding under my desk. Don't look at the light. The commies are coming. Until I have the opportunity to not be afraid every single day. Yes, there's naturally born psychopaths. Okay, I understand that. There's people who are missing some kind of thing. Kind of thing in their head or some kind of thing in their heart. I don't know how that works. You know certainly as much as I do that when you have a grassroots movement like this is, now I'm going to be the first one to admit that it is a possibility that the Flat Earth movement was a PSYOP creation by them, the government, the powers that be, or whatever, because they really are running out of ways to keep us fooled into believing that we live on a ball. NASA's not working. They've stopped the space program as far as you know, they're not going to go to the moon anymore. They don't have the shuttle program. They've so-called got an international space station, which I don't believe for 5 seconds, but okay, let's just say for the sake of argument that there's a space station up there and that those people are running out of supplies. And now the second ship that was going to go up and bring them supplies, 4 tons of supplies, by the way, and you know, and now it's becoming a danger for them to starve to death or something. So I believe that they're bringing down their own space program because they can't prop it up anymore. Many people watching their bogus bingo looking, hoaxy looking stuff and saying it's hoax. If you were going to bring it down anyway, okay, and you were going to do disclosure, okay, we've all been waiting for years for the disclosure of aliens, right? Now, you know, Area 51 aliens and all the spaceship weird things, that the ET things we see flying around in the sky, you know, I'm not going to say they're real or I'm not going to say they're not real, but you know, what if they're coming from one of those other ponds over there and they're slipping by the perimeter, okay, where they probably don't have enough warships to keep them out, or even if they did, I mean, what are you going to do? Pew, pew, pew. UFO going 400,000 miles an hour or something. So let's just say that there is a possibility, because there's a lot of people out there saying you guys are falling for this stupid psyop that the you know, government is put out there to make y'all look like crazy people. Okay. Well, okay. So let's just say that that's true. Let's go on that premise. If that's true, then okay, I caught on. And you know what? You're right. The Earth's say, okay, now we're going to come out and we're going to tell you that the Earth's flat. and then we're going to admit it, and you're all going to get mad. And by then we've already torn NASA apart, so you can't sue them. You know, you can't sue them for all the money that's been spent, of the taxpayers' money or the Black Ops money or whatever. Okay, so you know, I am a conspiracy theorist. I like theorizing what these crazy, psychopathic control freaks like to try to come up with. Okay, I like to try to think like them, because the only way you can beat them is to think like them. You know, what would they think about this, and how would they relate to that? Okay. If that's the case, imagine what they could do by easily picking, let's say, for example, Mark Sargent's Enclosed World, with the dome over the top. And you're right, there's a dome, and you know, maybe for the last 50 years they've been building some glass wall or stone wall or something so that when the day comes they could go, there it is, see, we told you. And this is why we wanted you to believe that we were spinning through space, and that maybe someday benevolent aliens would come and save us. I've been compiling in my mind who's zooming who, why are they doing it, who's sitting in the control room at the top of the pyramid, who what benefit is it of that for them? In the meantime, I've also been watching all of their predictive programming movies that they've been putting out, where they, with a little Jupiter ascending, with a little Dark City punked in there. And so, yeah, all of those things combined are all in the file cabinet. Not only that, not only are you going to arrive on the flat Earth, but once you get there, it's like the ball was a trap. And when you get free of the trap in your mind, okay, now everything's calm. Now everything's sitting still and fixed. And we're not flying anywhere where no one can catch up to us, okay? So suddenly you become quite at peace. Your mind feels very free, because now you can use your imagination again to imagine exploring and wondering, and an opportunity to reset things, to bring down the pyramid and start again, to have a new system that we're all a little bit more party to, instead of just a bunch of technocrats thinking they're doing the best for everybody. They're only doing the best for the corporations and the globalists. YouTube is such an awesome tool for us to be able to share things with each other. And I believe that because of the technology that they've given us, some of us were quick enough to use it for our own good thing. We became MacGyvers. And we retooled it for our own uses. So that's actually pretty cool. A few years ago, if you went on YouTube and you put in the search box on YouTube, flat Earth, just those two words alone, you may come up with a few thousand videos, but probably less than 1,000. Okay, this thing is going off the charts, and there's also a lot of people who are trying to become a flat Earth celebrity. There's people who are trying to be a flat Earth guru, people who are out there looking for information to shop around. I'm in it for the end game. I have the patience, another biblical reference, but I have the patience of Job. And you know, you can fling labels at me all you want. You can call me shill suspicious. You can call me an agent. You can call me, you know, gold digger. You can call me anything you want. I don't care. But I'm going to be there at the finish line when we get enough of the word out that we have made the saturation point, I guess as they call it, to where there isn't anybody left out there that hasn't heard about flat Earth and isn't willing to go with the rest of the team, the rest of the community, because holding out after a certain tipping point will be absolutely useless. I mean, absolutely fruitless. Quicker that we all agree that you know, the goal is the goal, then the faster we're going to get there to take down all these people that are trying to control everything. And if there's a little chaos along the way, well, you know what? So be it. I mean, that happens when you have change, but you can't avoid that just so you can stay safe, because this ain't real safe right now.